Alright guys, if you're in the marketplace for a new device, you can get an iPhone 16e for $600, really $650 after tax. You can get an iPhone 14 for about $400 in excellent condition on Amazon, eBay. So let's go ahead and compare the two and see which one comes out on top here. So hardware wise, both these phones are pretty similar with some very minor differences here. So as far as the build quality goes, they're both glass and metal phones, and they both are IP68 dust and water resistant. The one difference that you will notice here is that you do have a matte finish on the SE versus the kind of glossy finish on the iPhone 14. Now this one doesn't show that many fingerprints because of the color, which is nice, so you don't really have to worry about that. But yeah, you also do have, let's check. The size of these two phones are pretty much the same here. Now, we do have only one camera on the 16e, so that's something that you will notice. We do have an ultra wide camera on the 14, and I will show you guys the side-by-side photos. But the other hardware thing with these phones is that you do have an action button on the 16e, and you do have a mute switch on the 14. That is pretty much it. They're both pretty light phones, and they're both pretty easy to one hand. Alright, so let's talk about the displays with these two phones. These phones have pretty much the exact same display, so there's legit no difference between these two panels. They're both a Super Retina XDR OLED display. They both are 6.1 inches HDR10. They both get to a max brightness of 1200 nits. And they both have the same resolution, 1170 by 2532, and you do have a slight PPI difference, with the 16e being at 457 and the 14 being at 460. But besides that, there is no real difference. Here you have the same notch up top, and I don't know what it is, but it looks like the bezels are a little bit chunkier on the 16e. But the spec sheet will say something different, but in real life it definitely looks like it's thicker. Now when it comes to the overall colors and stuff, they also look the same, so the displays are legit the same. They're both 60 Hertz panels, and yeah, so there's absolutely no difference here. I wish, you know, they put at least 90 Hertz on the 16e, but yeah, they are legit the same display here, so no difference. All right, so what about the speed? So the iPhone 14 has the Apple A15 chip, 128 gigs, 6 gigs of RAM, and then with the 16e we do have the Apple A18 chip, 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. You can see the Geekbench scores here for the single core, and here are the scores for the multi-core. I think most people won't really notice a difference between the speed of these two phones. The iPhone 14 is still very fast, and here are the 3D mark scores. So we get 19, 17.1, 12 to 22, 11 to 27. So again, nothing too crazy here. And as far as like your general usage of just getting into normal applications here, it is not that big of a deal, guys. You really can't feel the difference between these two phones when you're opening up apps, loading stuff up. You could probably multitask a little bit better on the 16e if you open up a lot of stuff because of that extra RAM. But besides that, as you guys can see, open that. Besides that, you guys can see they look exactly the same in terms of animations and getting into stuff. There's really no difference here. Now, when it comes to gaming performance, because Apple put a 60 Hertz, display in, both these phones, they're gonna feel extremely similar in terms of performance, guys. Because you can basically play at the same settings, and that's going to be roughly, every game that you play, right? It just feels the same, playing at 60 frames here on the 16e, and the 14 feels, basically the same as well too. So again, yeah, it has a better chipset, better scores, but in real life there's almost no difference that anyone will really notice here, because again, you're stuck at the same frame rates. So like I said, the benchmarks say one thing, but in real life these two phones are extremely similar in performance. Now, one thing that Apple will try to sell you on with this phone is the Apple Intelligence. I personally don't ever use the Apple Intelligence stuff, but it is here. So that's something that the 14 does not have. And you can take advantage of the, you know, Apple Intelligence and stuff like that. But overall, you know, you would really have to, you know, be into the AI stuff, because I just don't think it's actually useful. The Memoji thing is here to make your own emojis and stuff. We got both speakers at max volume. Let's check out the sound. Start with the 16. So the speakers sound extremely similar. I can hear the lower bass notes a little bit better on the 16E, but that's about it. They sound just way too similar to be able to tell like an actual difference. So I'm gonna say the speakers are very similar. I guess you could say there's a slight edge with the 16E, but it's not by much really. And yeah, so Face ID is on both these phones, though that works, you know, basically the same, so there's no difference with that. So this is kind of the awkward thing here. So you do have a 48 megapixel standard on the 16E, but that's it. There's no telephoto lens or anything like that. And it does shoot in 4K 60 with a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. As you guys can see, there's no cinematic mode on the 16E as well, so that's something that you will be missing here. Now, the 14, it does have a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It can shoot in 4K 60 as well with a 12 megapixel selfie that also shoots in 4K 60. Check out these side-by-side stills and video. Let me know what you guys think. Now, you do have on the 14 MagSafe, so that is something that you do have. You do not have MagSafe on the 16E, so just do note that. You also have wireless charging on both of these phones as well too. But the thing about the wireless charging on the 16E is it is incredibly slow at 7.5 watts versus the 15 watts on the 14. So just, you know, do note that. And overall, the battery life is very good on the 16E. It's actually pretty good, but the 14 still has really good battery life. And my 14, this one, like I said, if you even replace the battery, you know, that'll be fine. But I got this one used and it came with 100% battery health. So it's been extremely good. It's been just as good as the 16E. Honestly, so I don't have an issue with battery life, and it doesn't feel like it's that much better. In my opinion, you're actually losing quite a bit, you know, getting a 16E if you're deciding between these two phones. I think the 14 to me is just a better choice. You get the ultra wide camera. You also do get on the 14 a cheaper price, right? The battery life is still good. The cameras are still good. The display is virtually the same. You get MagSafe as well too, so you can take advantage of that. And overall, it's just not worth for $600+ to get the 16E over the 14. So what do you guys think? Would you buy the 16E over iPhone 14? Because you do have Apple Intelligence and stuff like that, but to me it's just not worth it in my opinion. So what do you guys think?